So like I said, today's going to be one of the most raw and real lives I have ever had with you guys. I know that we were going to talk about turning job achievements into, or job responsibilities into or into career achievements. That was the intention. That was seriously the intention of my live. And I prepared for it. I have a whole deck for it that I was going to go through these 15 minutes. So I am going to post a link in the chat right now because we're not going to talk about that today. Because something else happened. And I am somebody that goes with the flow and goes with my heart on some of these things. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. And what I'm going to agree to is we're not talking about turning your job qualifications into career achievements, since that is not what I'm talking about today. I'm going to talk about something else. I want you guys to send me your email so I can send you materials on this. And we can talk about this at a different time. I can do a whole separate live on another day, maybe another day this week, to let you know, so we can talk about it. But I do want to hold true to what I said I was going to do. So I will send you the materials and that I was going to talk about with more detail, of course. About how to turn your job qualifications into career achievements, like what I do in order to do that. So I'll send you those materials so you have it. And then when you have it, then I'll create a whole new live to talk about that. So what I'm going to talk about today actually is getting rejected from a job after multiple interviews. So you've had multiple interviews for a company with a company, let's say 2, 3, 4, up to a point where you really thought that you were going to get the job. And I want to talk about that today. So you were committed to the role. You had a connection to the role. Basically, you were invested. You were invested in the role. You were invested in the company. You invested a lot of time, and you were on your final interview and ended up getting rejected. So that's essentially what I want to talk about today. So I want to ask everybody that is on Instagram and everyone that is on Facebook, I do want to ask you guys, if there's anyone in the chat, let me know if you recently have been rejected from a job that you applied to after multiple interviews. And actually, you can just let me know if you applied to a job that you really liked to. You applied to the job and you got rejected. You didn't even get to the interview, or you applied to the job, you had multiple interviews, and also you on around the third or last interview or something like that, you also did not receive the role. So let me know in the chat, and then we can get things kicking. Anybody, let me know. Don't be scared. Is there anyone that has been rejected? Okay, I'm seeing some people. Okay, I'm going to actually ask a question in the chat. I'm going to put a poll. Have you recently been rejected from a Yes, Mom. Mommy, what do you Okay, all right. Hold on. You guys, hold on. One second, Mommy, okay? Okay, I got it. You're welcome. Listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. Hey. Okay, you can't get into FB, so you're here. Okay, well, I'm glad since you can't get into FB, Facebook, that you were able to make it in here. So let me know. Have you been recently rejected from a role? I think I hit okay. I think I hit that poll. But and again, since we're not talking about, and I'll mention this a couple of times, since we're not talking about job achievements job qualifications into career achievements, I put a link to a poll in there, and you can enter in your information. So you can let me know if you can enter information. So I can send you that information. But today we're just going to talk about rejection, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because I think I don't know if you guys saw a recent Facebook, not a recent YouTube video that I put up maybe about a week ago, about me actually looking for a job. So I put up this video saying that I'm in a season, even though I'm an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years. I'm in a season where I am looking for a role. And I gave my reasons behind it. There's multiple reasons. The main reason is because I want to upskill on a certain technology. There's a certain software that I want to upskill in. I want to get recertified. There's only, one way, really 2 ways to get recertified. So I decided that I wanted to start going back to work in the corporate world, in addition to keeping my business, right? So I've been looking for roles just like many of you. So I'm part of that 85% of people who are looking for jobs. And it's been good. I've had my application out there for about a month. And I have my application out there for about a month and a half or so. And I've gotten a lot of responses. I've gone on a number of interviews. I've had a couple of offers. I've turned down some offers. So it's been pretty good. But there was one job that I really wanted. And that's just the facts of it. There was one job that I was really interested in, and I was invested in that. I was invested in that role. And I went on 4 interviews. It was a 4-step interview process. Well, kind of 5. There was a screening with the recruiter. Then there was the interview with the hiring manager. Then there was an interview with 2 people who would be my colleagues, who were like senior in that group, but they would be my colleagues. So that was almost like a panel interview with those 2 people. And then the last interview. Oh, actually, no. There was another interview with the manager's manager. So the leader, the person who headed up that whole area. So there's an interview with that person. And then the final interview was a presentation where they gave me a case study, and I had to do a presentation to show them my presentation skills. So the case study basically was just, it's for software. So it's a software company. I've told you guys that I'm a tech geek, and I build software for HR departments. That's the other side of my business. And so I had to present on this software to show them that I knew the software, that I knew what I was talking about, and I'd be able to help their customers with solutions to that software. So I spent hours putting together this presentation, and I thought the presentation was great. And I found out today, I had the presentation, I got great feedback during the presentation, and I found out today that they liked me. Actually, the words were that they loved me, but they decided to move on with somebody else. So I found out recently today, like not long before going live today. And that's why I decided to change the topic of this call, because all kinds of emotions happen. I had all of these emotions because I was invested in getting that role. And by invested, I mean that I basically knew I was going to get this role. There wasn't a doubt. There wasn't, after that presentation, there was no doubt. I was not thinking, oh, I hope I get this. That was not the thought. The thought was, I'm going to get this, and I gotta start thinking about, what I'm going to negotiate for this when they make me the offer. That's where my head was at. My head was already at offer, and thinking about what are some of the things that I want to ask for and talk to them about after they make me their offer, and wondering, what range, between the range that we talked about, what part of that range were they going to offer me? And if they offer the different scenarios, if they offer me this, and I can ask for this. So that's where I was at, right? And then I found out today that actually I was off and they were moving on with the other candidate. So I felt all the emotions. And so while I was feeling all the emotions is when I started to write, right? I started to write some things down. And so that's how this whole topic came about, because of me writing things down about my emotions and how I felt about being rejected for this job. Because in all of my career coaching and all of my career consulting that I have done over the years, this is the first time that I've got rejected for a role in the middle of it. Like this is not the first time I look for a job and everything. I interview and look for jobs all the time, right? But this is the first time while I was in the midst of career coaching where I have clients and I'm doing lives, I'm doing all this stuff, doing all these videos, where I was rejected for a role. So I want to talk about that. So I hope there are people that have experienced this, and I actually not even hope. I know that there are people who have experienced where you have basically been rejected for a job and rejected for a job after so many different interviews. So there's 4 points. I have 4 points I want to talk about. And after those 4 points, so we can get into Q&A. You can ask me. And as you guys know, if you've been here before, you can do Q&A about anything. It doesn't have to be about the topic. It can be about the topic. It can be about your resume. You can pull up your resume if you want to. It can be about an interview that you're about to go to tomorrow. Q&A is anything. But I just want to go over 4 quick points about how to deal and how to react to a rejection to a job that you really wanted, a job that you invested time in order to get. You invested so much time, so much energy into this job, even if the energy was, I spent a lot of time redoing my resume to make sure that it talked about all of the qualifications that I met in their job description. And I spent hours redoing that resume and I still got rejected. Even if it's something like that's an investment of time, because you did that because from the job description and from the company, you really wanted to work there. So the first thing I had to do, and this all happened today. So points 1 through 4 happened today. I did them all today. Number 1 is grieve it. Okay. Grieve the fact that you did not get something that you wanted. Grieve the fact that you did not get something that you expected to get. Whether you saw yourself in the role, or you saw yourself working at the company, or you saw yourself working with those people, you saw yourself working with that team, you started thinking about the things that you could do to help that company. You started pre-planning. I've had candidates when I help companies recruit. I've had candidates that have been hired and come in. They say, "Yeah, I was already thinking about this, during the past 2 or 3 weeks, and these are some of the things I've been thinking about." So those are some things that you may have already started to do in preparation for getting this job, and grieve that. Take the time to actually grieve that. You deserve to feel those feelings. You deserve to grieve the fact and feel upset or sad about the fact that what you thought was going to happen or what you really desired to happen didn't happen. So, and I don't mean that you have to go through all of these steps for all of the jobs that you're rejected to, because you are going to get rejected to some of them. So there are some companies I submitted my resume and they sent me a rejection email, and I did not care. I'm not doing that for all of these. I'm doing that specifically for a job that I invested. Like I told you, I had 6 steps of this interview process. So I invested in the last step. I invested hours in putting together that presentation. So I invested time into that. And so for that, I am going to grieve what occurred, okay, what I did not get. So just the only thing I will say is that you should not stay here. Don't stay in grieving. It took me writing for me to go through all of these feelings and these emotions. So it took me writing I'm not going to say it's going to take you the same amount of time, but don't stay here. Don't stay still. Don't stay in grieve mode for an extreme amount of time, because if you stay here, then you're not going to move forward. So if you find yourself getting upset again, please try to get to step number 2. Like if you find yourself getting upset and starting to feeling those feelings, like, okay, feel them, but however, continue on to step number 2. And step number 2 is allow yourself to feel the anger of spending so much time in the interview process and not getting the win, or spending so much time on your resume, or spending so much time in research. Whatever, if you spent a significant amount of time, give yourself the permission to get angry. Listen, I'm a Knicks fan, okay? And, for those of you who are Knicks haters, I don't care, first of all, okay? Don't you dare come for me and our loss the other day. But I'm a Knicks fan. I've been a diehard Knicks fan for the vast majority of my life, since I was probably 9 years old. And the Knicks this year were in the playoffs. They were in postseason. And they had an amazing season. And Knicks fans, because it has been so long since we've actually had a good team, Knicks fans all over were so excited. Knicks fans like me, who are just, unknown, and also famous Knicks fans, like the Knicks, whenever they were at the Madison Square Garden, the star-studded front row was ridiculous, right? The amount of Knicks fans that were stars that came out. Like everybody came out and everybody was ready to cheer on their Knicks. And the Knicks players were excited as well. And they had a great season. And then they got to the first round of the playoffs and they beat the Sixers. Awesome. Everybody's excited, right? Then we're getting to the second round of the playoffs and we're against the Indiana Pacers. I say we. So we're against the Indiana Pacers and we win the first 2 games of that series. And everybody's excited. We think we're going to win. The Knicks are expected to win, right? And the Knicks players are probably feeling them. I can imagine in that locker room, like, come with me in this moment, right? Be the player. Be the player who had the great season, who has all of these fans cheering him on, who has people saying, MVP, MVP, like all of this stuff. And you get to the tough first round, you beat that team. Then you get to the second round against a rival, a huge rival, right? And you win the first 2 games. Feel how you're feeling right now as that player. And then you lose. You lose the best of 7. You end up losing against the Pacers. Think about that anger that they felt. All of the practices that they went to, all of the workouts, all of the team meetings, all of the time that they invested in preparing for this moment, postseason playoffs, to get as far as they possibly can. And they end up losing after winning the first 2 games. It was 2-0. And then they ended up losing in game 7. That's going to be angry. They're going to be angry. Those players are going to go back. I know that on Sunday, or whatever day it was, whatever day game 7 was, I know that those players went back angry and upset after everything, after playing injured, after all things that they still lost. It's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of time invested. Your heart is committed. Your heart is invested. And you're so close, but you don't make it. That's going to bring about anger. And so I want you to allow yourself to get mad at their mistake, because it is their mistake. Let's get it. If you made it that far, it is their mistake. If you invest a lot of time in redoing your resume just so you're qualified, and not because you're lying, because you want to make sure that all the qualifications you have are showcased and show them that you are the person for that role. Like, their mistake for not even giving you the chance to even interview and prove yourself. So allow yourself to get angry at their mistake, at their mistake. Now, how do you allow yourself to feel it? This is what I did. You can write it. I wrote it. You can talk to your therapist. Hopefully you have one. If you don't, I highly recommend getting a therapist. Or you can talk to a friend. Or you can even curse them out in the privacy of your home, if that's what you want to do. If you want to just go off in the privacy of your room on this company, then do you. These same Knicks players and coaches are already taught, but don't stay here either. Because I promise you that the same Knicks players and the same Knicks coaches that I was just talking about are moving on to next year. They're talking about next year, even if they're angry, even if they're still angry, even if they're still upset, right? They're talking about next year. So for us, let's consider the next steps instead of staying in step 2 where you're angry. Because I see a lot of people online when I'm looking at comments and I'm looking at people's posts about on LinkedIn and on TikTok about investing a lot of time in an interview process and still not getting the role. I see a lot of people getting angry about that, and they stay angry and they get bitter. And it's a part of it. Unfortunately, it's a part of it, right? So you've got to move forward, because each time you get rejected, you're going to get more and more bitter. I've been there. I've done this already. I've been there where you just get more and more bitter. And then at some point, you're just not even interviewing well, because you don't even care anymore, because you feel like you basically have given up. So you don't want to do that either. Number 3. Now, moving on to number 3, because now we've gotten through the emotions of grieving it and getting through your anger. So once we grieve it and once we get through our anger, what's the next step that we do? The next step for me is figuring out, what can I take away from the interview process? Literally, what can you take away from the interview process? What can you reuse? What happens especially if you, let me start with resume first, right? If you made a lot of changes to your resume specifically for this job, you know you wanted this job specifically. So what was it about this job? Okay, was it the company? So what was it about that company? So then you could look for more companies like that and use that same resume. Okay? And you or utilize the same steps so you could do it quicker, where you're not investing as much time in revamping your resume specifically for a job. If it was an interview, right? What can you use? What can you reuse during that interview process? Now, did you ask really great questions that gave you insight to that job, that made you really want it, that made you so invested? Like, did you hear something about that job when you asked them specific questions about the mobility, about the company, about the work from home, the remote, the flexibility, like whatever? What was the question that you asked? Maybe it was a leadership that you asked them that really got you into the job. That's going to, so you can reuse some of those same questions for these next companies you're going to go on an interview for, so you can get that same insight, because now you know what you're looking for. Okay, you know what got you excited. You can pinpoint it. You know what you're looking for. So the companies that don't have it, then you can just be like, okay, well, you know what? All right, they don't have it. You don't have to reject them like I would. I would reject them, but that's just me. You don't have to do what I do. You don't have to reject them, but you at least know what you're getting into. Right? Like in my situation where I created a whole presentation. Okay. I created a whole presentation for part of this interview process. Do y'all think I'm not going to reuse this presentation? I most certainly am going to reuse this presentation. In fact, during the presentation, after I finished the presentation and they were giving me feedback, one of the questions that one of the panelists asked me was, how do I feel about my presentation and how do I feel about the presentation? And I said to him, I thought my presentation was great. and I'm going to reuse this. And I said it straight up because I am going to reuse this. And when I said it, I was talking about reusing it for a client because I said, I'm going to reuse it for a client because this question, this case study that you guys gave me is something that's common. That's a common ask of customers. So I'm just going to reuse this presentation again. And I promise you guys that I will. And it's not going to just be for an interview. I would reuse it for an interview, but it all depends because an interview, the next company may ask me for something, a different kind of presentation. However, for a client, I'm going to use, I pulled up the glasses. For a client, I am going to reuse this presentation because the presentation was great. Okay. It was 20 minutes and it was a great 20 minutes of presentation. So if you have those kind of interviews where you are doing a presentation, reuse a presentation. In most cases, if it's not a tech company, like a tech role where you have to build things, they may let you present anything that you want, and you can just reuse the same exact presentation. Okay. Another thing is, did you give a great answer to a question? And was it better than your usual response? Like in their tell me about yourself question, or tell me about a time that you faced some conflict in the role. Like whatever it is that they asked you. Let's say you answered that question much better than what you usually how you usually answered it. Reuse that. If you knew it was better, if you got amazing feedback, reuse that. If you got further in this interview process and you have in others, like think about the things that you did really well and reuse those things. And also, business experience. Now, based on this experience, can you think of better questions that you could have asked to based on this? No, this is what I'm asking. Based on this experience, can you think of questions that you could have asked that would have given you a better results, where you would have gotten the job? What feedback can you give yourself to say that if I did this might have been the difference? And especially if they gave you feedback, if the recruiter gave you feedback as to why you did not get the job, then what questions should you have asked them based off of that feedback? So you could have done that. You could have done that during the presentation, or you could have done that during the interview. For example, my feedback was that they were hoping that I was going to dig deeper into the technical stuff of the configuration of the software. Now, I purposely did not dig into the deep technical details of the software. You want to know why I did not do that? Was because I purposely did not do that. Because first of all, it was a 20-minute conversation. It was a 20-minute presentation. And it was a presentation to a client. And in most cases, the client is not going to have only technical people on the call. It's going to be the business owners, the business people, the ones who don't get into the weeds of it. So if I get too technical, it goes over their heads and it's not a good presentation. They don't get anything out of it. So I treated it like that kind of presentation, since it was a client facing presentation. So that's why I did not go deep into the weeds. But they were disappointed with the fact that I did not go deep into the weeds. So I know that feedback was from the hiring manager, because that was feedback that he gave me right after the presentation. So I could have, before I did the presentation, a question that I could have asked was, what are the expectations of the hiring manager? Or what are the expectations of the panel or of the decision maker? Like, what is this person going to be looking for? Because the recruiter is there. The recruiter should be there to help you get the job. Because when they fill the quicker they fill jobs, the better they are at their job. So they should be there to help you along the way. So I should have asked the recruiter, what is the decision maker's expectations? What are they going to be looking for? And she might have told me that they want you to see you get technical. And then I would have gotten technical, because that was the only feedback that they gave me, was that I did not get, it was stupid. Let's keep it real. I don't think that was really it. But regardless of that, that was the feedback. And that was the only feedback. So I could have easily got that. I could have easily have gotten that answer prior to getting to that presentation. You guys ask me questions and I will answer them as we go along. Okay, so just something to consider about taking, what can you take away from this? This is what I wrote. What can you take away from this so you can apply it to the next interview process that you get invested in? So what lessons can you take away from this rejection that you can apply to the next interview process or the next role that you are invested in? Because there's going to be another one there's going to be another one that you're invested in. And number 4, the last one, is a lot of people say this statement. A lot of people say this, and I did not want to say this without going through the first 3 steps first, because when you're this invested, I definitely do not think that you should just get to step 4. You don't start here. You land here. Okay. After going through steps 1, 2, and 3, you land at this step. You should not start here, because if you start here, you're not going to be over it. You're not, and you're going to be upset still. And it's like, it's like a breakup. You break up with somebody that you were with for 4 years, and you act like it was only a week, and you just go back there out on the dating scene. Okay, so you don't start at step number 4. You land at step number 4. And that is, this rejection was your protection. I know it's cliche. Don't y'all laugh at me. Okay? Don't y'all laugh at me. I know it's cliche. But that's the truth. That's facts. Your rejection is your protection. And I really believe that. I really do believe that this rejection that I received today was my protection. And the reason why is because, yeah, they told me that the rejection was because I did not get technical. I did not get as, or I did get technical. I did not get as technical as they would have wanted in my presentation. But what I really think, there was something, when I thought back on this, on the whole interview process, I remember something that the hiring manager had said. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment that I think maybe he has a problem with how confident I am. Because I am confident. Like I am, especially in this function. I'm extremely confident in this function. And I think that he had an issue, or maybe not an issue, but he has some concerns with how confident that I am, which leads me to believe that would have caused conflict in between him and I. Because it leads me to believe that he was possibly the kind of leader that wants superstars on his team, but he doesn't want those people to know they're superstars. So they are superstars, but they don't know that they're superstars. I know I'm a superstar. So I think that would have caused a rift in between us. So that would have caused conflict. That would have been a problem. Okay. So I know that would have been an issue, and it just wouldn't have worked out. So I do truly believe in my heart of hearts that was protection for me. Now, I could end up, they like me so much that I could end up getting into something else, but I know specifically for that role that was that rejection protection for me. So that's why I'm telling you guys that the rejection is your protection. And if you look back, every single role that, and I'm talking about my entire career, because this is the first rejection I've received since I've been looking in this time period. But any rejection I have ever received in my entire career, when I look back at it, and I look back at the kind of company they were and the signs they showed me during that interview process, it really was my protection. So once you land here, you're not going to believe it. If you start here, you're definitely not going to believe that the rejection was your protection. But when you land here and you go through step 1, which is grieving, step 2, which is anger, step 3, which is reflecting and finding out what you can take away from it. And when you're in that step 3 and you're reflecting what you can take away from it, that's where I realized that, oh, you know what? This really was my protection, because I don't think that we would have meshed well. All right, guys. So that is everything I have for you today. Okay. I'm so happy that we talked about that today. So there's not many on you here today. So you guys, let me know. For those of you who are here, let me know if you have any questions. I am going to put in the chat once again the form. Hold on, IG. I'm going to have to figure out how to get you this. Hold on. How am I going to have to do this? IG, I don't know if I can get, I don't think, IG, I'm not, IG, I'm going to, after, okay, you know what, IG? After I stop the live, I will post the link as a comment. And for anyone that joined late, if you do not know the link that I'm talking about, since I originally planned on talking about turning your job qualifications into your career achievements. Hey, Marlene, what were the 4 steps again? Step 1, just 1 second, actually. So for anyone that joined late, since the original point of this live was to go through how to turn your job qualifications into career achievements. And I totally changed course because of my feelings, right? I totally changed course and I decided to talk about how to deal with rejection from a job that you were fully invested either time or your heart or whatever in. So the 4 steps I went over again was step 1 was grieve it. Step 2 was feel the anger. Allow yourself to feel the anger of them making the mistake of rejecting you. Number 3 was reflect. Reflect on reflect on the things that you could take away from that interview process. What can you reuse? What information can you take from that interview process that you can reuse for the next interview process or the next resume that you're submitting? And number 4, this rejection is your protection. And remember that you have to land there. You can't start there. You have to land at number 4. Okay, so does anyone have any questions for me? And remember, questions can be about anything. It could be about your resume. If any of you want to get onto the StreamYard with me, I will post a link to backstage and we can bring you backstage and you can pull up your resume and we can go over your resume. Or if you have a question about an interview question or an interview that you're going on, any question that you may have, let me know. And we will spend the rest of the time talking about questions. If you do not have any questions, I will close this live because I will go eat dinner because I am hungry. So I'm going to check. Any questions? No? Okay, I'm going to give you guys like another minute or 2. I can talk about, while you're doing that, I can talk about what I'm going to do next. So what I'm going to do next, guys, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do next in regards to, I think that for this role, for this company specifically, because I was invested in the role itself, but it was also the company that was attracted me. It was a very large company, very large, very popular software company. And it would have been great to be a part of that organization. And they liked me. And if I find something else I like, I'll apply to it. But honestly, I don't know if I can go through that interview process again. I'll be real with you guys. So if they tell me that they want me to apply to another role, because that was some of the conversation that the recruiter and I had. She wants to look around to see if there's any other, because she said I belong in that company. Those are her words. I belong in that company. And she's going to see if there's anything else that she just needs to find a position for me. So if she finds a position for me, but I have to go through that 5-step interview process again, I gotta be real with you. I don't know. I gotta be real with you. Marlene, how often will you be doing your live interviews? Marlene, I do this once a month. Every third Tuesday of the month, I am live. Every third. Any other day I'm posting videos. I pre-record the videos and I post them online. But I do go live every third Tuesday of the month. So next month will be June. Hold on. Okay, it's not pulling up. So let me pull up on my phone. Next month, it's going to be June. Oh, here it is. June 18th, next month. So I'll be live again June 18th. And then what interview did I have today? No, my interview wasn't today. My interview was last Tuesday or Wednesday. And it was an interview presentation. I had to do a 20-minute presentation as if I was client facing, and it was about the product. I was resolving a fake client's problem. And so I had to come up with 2 solutions. I had to choose 2 solutions to several of their problems in a 20-minute presentation. That was last week. Today, I found out that I was a very close second, but they were moving forward with another candidate. Any other questions? Okay, wait, what was I saying? Okay, yeah, so if I have to go through those 6, whatever, how many, it was 5 or 6. If I have to go through those 5 or 6 interviews again for this company, because they're like, we want to put you in a position, I don't know. If they say to me, okay, Bettina, we found something, we really want you to come in here. Like, I feel like I've already been through it. So just put me in. Just let me meet the hiring manager. Just let me have a chat with the hiring manager, and we could see if we mesh well, right? If we have some kind of synergy. But don't have me go through don't have me go through those 4 or 5 steps again. I will meet anyone that you want me to meet. But I'm not going to go through another, prepare for another. I'm not going to say I'm not going to, because depending on how much the salary is, I might change my mind. but if it's the same salary, or around the same, like if it's only like, within 20,000, if it's within 20,000, 30,000 or 40,000, the same salary, I don't think I want to go through it again. But if it is like 100,000 more, then, I could be convinced to go through the process again. That's real talk. Because guys, it was gruesome. It was grueling. That interview process was grueling. And for anyone who just joined, because I saw that there are people who just joined, I'm telling you that the interview process was, I had a recruiter screening, which was about 30 minutes. Then I met with a hiring manager, which was just about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Then I met with 2 people on the team. So it was like a panel interview, and that was considered the technical interview. where they were asking me questions about the technical part of, you know, the software. Like, what would I do if this? How do you solve this? Like, they were making sure that I knew the product, right? Then there was that. That was 2 people. Then I met with the hiring manager's manager, so the leader of the entire area. I met with that person. So what were we at? Recruiter, hiring manager, panel, leader. So that's 4 interviews so far. And that was an hour. And that was a great conversation. I actually really liked that leader. I got to say that leader, I think he and I had a great conversation. I wouldn't mind working for him because I thought he was pretty dynamic. But then the 5th step was a 20-minute presentation on a case study. And it took me, yes, I am saving this live. And it took me a couple of hours. Like, it was like work. It was like work. It was, if you have seen my videos before, you know I call this charity work. And I call it charity work because that is the closest thing I could say to not call it slavery. Like, that's the closest thing I could, like, this is literally free labor. Okay. So it took me hours, just like it would for a client. If I had a client that asked me the same thing and they asked me to put together a presentation, and it would take me hours to put together that presentation. So it was the same amount of time. I treated it like it was a client, and it took me hours to do it. So it was a pretty grueling process. And I just don't know if I would do it again for the same amount of money. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know. But anyway, you guys don't have any more questions. So I am going to eat dinner. I'm so excited. I'm having Mexican. It's Taco Tuesdays. I don't know what kind of tacos I'm having because I'm not cooking them. I'm going to go across the street and eat them. But so I'm having tacos. So I'm so excited about that. So have a great evening. Thank you for joining my live. And I will see you guys next month on June, what did I say? June 18th? Did I say June 18th? See you guys next month on June 18th. All right. Bye.